Hey, what's up there, guys? This is Zero Spectre bringing an EDH deck tech to you, and the commander for my EDH today is Rafiq of the Many. I've had this deck for about a year now, and I've enjoyed playing it. It's changed a lot since I first started building it, and it used to be more aggro, and I used to not run any of the blue staples that are in EDH, and it's changed a lot, and now it's more tempo, and I try and just protect Rafiq once he gets on board, and I try and make sure he hits board first off. So we're going to start off with the lands, and we're going to start off with the colorless lands at that. And I only have, I guess you could say I have two in the deck. Cavern of Souls can tap for any color as long as it's tapping to produce a mana for the creature type that I choose. So normally I would choose humans when it comes into play. So that's our colorless lands. We got our rainbow lands, or the lands that tap for what colors we need. And we got our fetches. I would have more fetches, but don't have money. We got our artifact lands. I'm missing Tree of Tales. We got our shock lands that we need, and our 3 check lands. And we have our pain lands. I'm missing Yavimaya Coast, I believe it is. Then we got our filters. I'm missing Mystic Gate. And I have 7 basic islands, 6 basic forests, and 4 basic plains. Alright. We have only 1 Planeswalker in the deck, and I kind of want to change it up and make... I kind of want to get an Elspeth Knight Errant for the deck, because it just seems good using her second +1 ability, giving Rafiq, or our creature that's going to attack by itself, the +3/+3. And maybe even the new Ajani that just got spoiled recently, the new one in an M15. It's
3-drop Ajani.
The 3-drop Ajani?
Yeah.
Both, either Ajani, the Caller of the Pride, or the new Ajani, they both seem kind of decent. I don't know if I'll run them though, maybe just Elspeth. We got our enchantments. We got Rancor and Rhystic Study. Rancor is good because of the trample. Rhystic Study is just draw. We got our creatures. Stoneforge Mystic's just really necessary. In my opinion, and my friend's opinion, it's the best creature in the game. It's just really good. Snapcaster Mage, it's good for all instants and sorcery counterspells. Invisible Stalker is good because once you get him on board, it's hard to deal with, and the unblockable is just really good. Image to maybe clone something that our opponent has, maybe a Blight Seal, for example. Sacred Tribe Builder, some land ramp. Grand Abolisher is really good because he kind of protects our stuff during our turn. Pure Steel Paladin's really good, and if you happen to have a way to make infinite mana, you can just play Batterskull and Pure Steel, and keep bouncing Batterskull back to your hand and keep playing Pure Steel, or keep playing Batterskull rather. Kasali for a way to deal with artifacts or enchantments. E-Witness for the recursion. You can get back an extra turn card or a counterspell or something if you need an out. Maybe a Path to Exile or Swords of Plowshares. Daxos of Meletis, he's really good, and he can get there against the deck that plays big guys or whatever. Knight of the Reliquary can do good in a deck with fetches or lots of lands that hit the graveyard. This champion's really good because if you're playing like a Voltron version of the deck, he can get pro all colors pretty quickly. Glenelendra is really good, especially if you're running like Rite of Replication or something along those lines. It's just a good creature in itself, being able to counter a non-creature spell. Venser is good because he can bounce something, or he can basically counter a spell or remand a spell without the draw. Metamorph is good, another clone effect. Solemn's good because it's just an EDH staple, really. It goes and gets you a basic, and when it dies, it can get you a draw. Stone Hero Giant, he's a 5-drop 4/4 Vigilance, and you can pay 2 and tap him, and search your library for an equipment card, and attach it to a creature you control. He's pretty good, but not as good as Stoneforge in my opinion. Sun Titan is good. Get back swords or just 3-drop creatures, or maybe even a Stoneforge if it's in your graveyard, or lands too. Consecrated Sphinx, really good blue staple in my opinion. It's just the draw that you get from it is insane, especially in a multiplayer game like EDH. Metama is really good for the double strike trigger from Rafiq. You can take 2 extra turns with that. Onto our instants and sorceries. We've got Pact of Negation as our first counterspell and our lowest converter mana cost of the deck, I guess, since it's a 0-drop anyway. It's just good. It's not too hard to get to 5 mana in EDH, and the 2 blue and 3 generic is not hard to get at all. In a deck where you're running like fetches or things to filter out your lands, or just running their appropriate mana base. Source of Plowshares, Path to Exile, both good removal cards. Steel Shaper's Gift goes and gets you an equipment. You can go and get a sword with it, or a jit, and just any good equipment that you need. Enlightened Tutor can go and get you an artifact or an enchantment. It's really good. If you want to tutor up Rhystic Study, or if you want to tutor up a sword or a soul ring or something along those lines. Mystical Tutor can go and get you just a turn-taking card or a counterspell if you need it. Worldly Tutor goes and gets Stoneforge for me most of the time. Noxious Revival, I want to replace it with Regrowth. It's just, I hate that the card goes back on top of the library, but not having to pay the 1 mana for it and just being able to pay 2 life instead in EDH when you start off with 40 is pretty good. Berserk, it's a really good card, can win the game for you most of the time if you play it right, and I mean, there's just so many things you can do with it. If you want to play Rafiq or something along those lines, play a sword, get a sword on him. Maybe if you even have Batterskull on him, you just berserk and kill somebody for the win. Delay is really good. It's a counterspell. We're getting to more of our counterspells now. So we got Delay, Arcane Denial, Memory Lapse, Counterspell, Mana Drain. Mana Drain is, I think, my new most favorite counterspell, besides Force of Will. Mana Drain can be really good against a deck that plays big cards. It's just, there's insane value you can get out of it, especially if you have plenty of cards in your hand, or if you have a draw engine going or something like that, so you don't run out of cards. So when you do counter something big, you have something worth using the mana on. And we got Dissipate. We got some bounce spells. We got Cyclonic Rift, Boomerang, and Wipe Away. Then we got some more land ramp. We got Farseek, Kadama's Reach, and Cultivate. Some enchantment and artifact destruction, of course. Since I'm playing green, may as well play Crossing Grip. It's just really good for the split-second ability. Sphinx's Revelation, I don't see it a lot. I don't get to play it too often, but it is nice when I do. If I have the mana for it, can get a lot of value out of it. It is nice. Divine Reckoning, I don't like it that much. I'm planning on replacing it soon with possibly Wrath of God, because I just like Wrath more, and when I want to wipe the whole board and I can't because this card's in my hand, and it'll sure leave me a creature, but my opponent still has a Blightsteel on board, so it's just not that great in my opinion. But a Wrath wouldn't even get rid of Blightsteel. That's when you need Path or Swords. Supreme Verdict can't be countered, blows up the board. The creatures, rather. Red of Rep, good with Venser or Glenalundra. It's a really good card, in my opinion. Force of Will, great counterspell. Most of the times free for somebody, or, cost of 1 life. So, it's not a bad counterspell at all. It's a big-time legacy staple, and it's not that bad in EDH either. Time Warp, turn-taking card. It's just necessary. Temporal Mastery, you can tutor up for it. With Mystical Tutor, take that extra turn. It's kind of like an Explorer if you don't get any value out of it, but it's still good to take an extra turn. Getting into our artifacts, we got Soul Ring. It's just necessary in any EDH. Adding 2 extra mana for 1 is really good. Grim Monolith, for those busted hands or whatever, if you want to start off first turn Soul Ring, Grim Monolith, that can happen. That happens a lot. And we got our 5 swords. We've got, since we're playing the Voltron version, I wanted to play all 5 swords, and I don't want to get rid of any of the swords, really, even though they're not all as good as the others. Like, Sword of Fire and Ice is the best one, in my opinion, and Sword of Body and Mind is probably the weakest one, in my opinion. but sort of Feast and Famine, Light and Shadow, Body and Mind. I mean, they all have their uses. And we got Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots for protecting our creatures if we need to. They're just really good in that haste ability. And Umezawa's Jite and Batterskull are our last two cards in the deck.
Save the best for last.
And they, I mean, Jit and Batterskull are both big time, like Deathblade or you know, Stoneforge. We'll get these most of the time in Legacy, you know, but they're absurdly good in EDH, especially Batterskull. And with Rafiq, you know, he just, that double strike and being able to gain maybe 20 life in one turn is just really good. So that's Rafiq of the Many. If anybody has any questions as to why I'm running certain cards in the deck, or wants to know, have any ideas or whatever for their deck, just comment and maybe like the video. Thanks.